Next we have the wiring harness. Looks like they covered it in some of this cool, this is loom, but it's like split loom but braided. It's neat stuff. This car had the factory subwoofers in it, as we know, and this is the plug that powered them. This is a 12 to 5 volt converter. Ford will take 12 volts on remote turn on. However, it will give a pop when it turns on because of that inrush of current. You can buy an adapter now, such as a volt 3 to 9, that will solve that. It has a 5 volt switch on it. You put it on that, and that'll stop this from popping. Remove the Pioneer harness because we're not going to be using that, and we have what's left is the Ford harness. For me, I like to remove any wiring that isn't pertaining to this particular install. It's more of just a pet peeve than anything. For this install, we will not be using the rear speaker wires because we ran our own. The other nice thing about this is that if you need the wiring for something else in the harness, you now have extra pins. This also does not have a powered antenna. This is a nice feature that they always put this blue. Some of them have a blue and a blue with white. The reason why this is cool, some Fords with steering wheel controls, it's a one-wire steering wheel control wire. They don't pin this harness for some reason. You can pull the amplified antenna output out if the car doesn't have one, which you can easily check by plugging it in and see if the wire's on the other side, and use this to repin for the steering wheel controls. Put our lock back in place. Now we have a much more usable harness. That leaves us with the 2 front speaker wires, the red accessory, orange illumination, black ground, and yellow 12 volts. One thing I like to do is loop a remote turn on wire in with these and then over to here like this. The reason why I do that is because my speaker wires are ran with my remote turn on. They're in a bundle all taped up. I have all 5 of these wires right here to connect, and it just gives it this much cleaner look than having a random wire that just kind of comes over like this and connects. I'll get this all soldered up and we'll take a look at it. And this is what we end up with when we're done. All the wires we're not using, we tape up in a bundle, cap off the ends. Definitely have to cap off the ends. You don't want those speaker wires anywhere where they can touch anything. We put a big thing of shrink wrap over it to hold it all together. Here are the wires that are going to go off to our backup camera. We have the reverse trigger in. There is a way to do this. These here are outputs. This here is an input. What that means is that the 12 volts from the reverse light is coming into this. That needs to have an insulated connector on it. The power and the ground are outputs here. That means that the insulated connector needs to be on it on this side. You end up with a female here and a male here. Then the connectors just go back over the end. On this end, here's our remote and our speaker wires. So this is ready to be put into the car now. We're back at the dash where we started. Our plug is here. Fernando ran his backup wires, same connectors. We have the insulated female for the reverse, and we have the non-insulated on his side, power and ground, which will plug into our female insulated. It's a nice simple connection there. Our speaker wires and a remote turn on are up front along with our RCAs. Here's the plan. This is where it gets kind of fun. Because the amplifier is already up there and I don't have to unscrew all the speaker wires from there, we're going to hook up the remote turn on and we're going to do the DD1 up here. And we'll do it in the back and we'll do it at the sub. That way we can get the gain set before we put all this back together. It's the best idea I could come up with because I don't want to pull that amp back down. So I just need to solder the remote turn on wire together and grab the radio. You just have to remember, even though I told you guys that it goes sub, front, rear. Everything is plugged into the radio. Turn it on. The rear speakers are hooked up, so we should get some audio from there. Little tip, as excited as you are to test the radio and see what's going on, always just go through the setup. This has the tilt screen on it. We have sound coming out of the rear. Perfect. Let's move on to the DD1 test. For this, we're going to be using the Educar Test and Tune app. It has a bunch of test tones here that we can play with. One of them is 1000K. 0 dB. We have our DD1 hooked up to the output of the front speaker, connected to ground. Connected to ground. Let's start turning up the volume. We have signal, 1K detected. We're turned all the way up with no distortion, just like a Kenwood. We're gonna switch to the negative 5 dB. I'm gonna head to the back and start turning the gain up, and Fernando's gonna tell me when the distortion light comes on.
All right, distortion, go down, go up a little bit, down, Up a hair. Down a hair. Right there.
The front's done. I'm gonna move to the rear and do the rear speakers the same way. Test lead connected to ground. DD1 has a signal. Start turning it up. There we go. Bad. Start turning it down. Gone. Get it right. There you go. Rear speaker's good. Switch it to 40 hertz. So we have 40 hertz playing. Now I have my bass boost up on the amplifier where I want it. Start turning up my gain. There we go. Distortion. Turn it down. Find that happy spot. Right. Right there. All right, gains are set. Fernando, turn the radio back down. Make sure you turn the radio all the way down before you turn it off. You don't want to get back in the car, have everything. Yeah, it's happened. I can connect these rear speaker wires back up, and then I'm gonna head up front and finish getting those speaker wires connected there so we can start doing some more testing.
And the other guys combined.
Let's make sure we have sound on all our speakers. For that, we'll use the Test and Tune app again, and we'll switch over to pink noise and select mono. Everything is making sound. We'll go into the audio menu and we'll check our balance and fader. One of the cool things about the Kenwood is that no matter where you have your bass and treble, there is a center button here that'll put it back in the center for you. With all the speakers playing and in the right spots, we're gonna move on to the polarity pop test. This test is gonna allow us to see what direction the speakers are moving in. To test that, we're gonna be using the Sheffield Labs My Disc polarity pop. All the speakers are moving in the direction we want them to. That's key. One other thing, like in this, you gotta get to the back speaker. If you can't get to these rear speakers, because let's say, it's too far or whatever, and you can get to the bottom side of the speakers, you can always do it there. If we go to the bottom side of the speakers, it'll just pop the opposite. So you get red, red, green instead of green, green, red. As long as you're rolling in that direction, the lines will stay on. But they're not accurate to the car, it's just a nice guideline. We call them faux lines. Now that finishes up our testing. The last thing on this is to sit in the car and just take a listen, tweak the EQ a little bit. This one does not have a DSP, so we don't need to go and do that. It's just old school jam time. Now, even though it's just a radio, no DSP, the radio has an EQ, so there's no reason not to take advantage of that and do a little bit of tweaking, do the best that we can with what we got, and make it sound as good, which is what we're doing. Cool features about the Kenwood is if you do find a setting that you really love, it has a audio memory. So when you're here in the radio, hit this and you can audio setup memory. Say yes. If you want, you can even lock it. That allows you to recall or clear whatever it is you're doing. All right, Fernando, I'm done.
Awesome.
You done?
Yes.
Want to hear it?
Yeah.
While he's getting ready to sit in the car, I think it's just time to end the show. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this classic Mustang install. If you have one like this, well, now you know how to do it. Otherwise, just bring it to us and let us do it.
That's right.
Fernando, end the show.
Until the next one, guys.
You guys have a good night as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Oh, you know what? I didn't show you the subwoofer.
Oh, you should.
I know, right? Could you pop the truck
Yeah.
for me? Sorry. It fits in there nice, up out of the way, plenty of room. All right, now the show's over. See ya.